My name is Heidi Farmer, NEMTSS Regional Support Lead in Region 1. The Nebraska MTSS team, in partnership with the Nebraska Department of Education, is excited to welcome you to this webinar series to guide and support the implementation of consistent foundational literacy routines to strengthen overall systems to meet the needs of all students. These chapters will be facilitated by myself, Olivia Alberts, and Mary Jo McAhose. This series will directly align with the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines resource document and consist of two parts: word recognition and language comprehension. The information contained in these webinars is beneficial to school and collaborative teams working to strengthen Tier 1 literacy instruction, as well as align support provided in Tiers 2 and 3. Each of the two parts of this series will have a video that can be watched continuously or navigated around to only watch specific chapters. Each video starts with an introduction of the topic and then will have 8 to 10 chapters, depending on the part of the series it is. One way to access these chapters is before you go into full screen. Hover over the status bar and then click on the word Introduction to see a list of chapters to the right of the video. Chapters replace the ads to the right of the video. Click the chapter you would like to see from the list and the video will automatically skip ahead to that chapter. Another way to see the different chapters, especially if you are in full screen mode, is to hover your mouse over the status bar at the bottom of the video. A white graph will appear that shows you where each chapter starts and stops. Click your mouse to skip to the chapters you'd like to view. In this word recognition introduction, the following objectives will be covered. Explore theoretical models and the implications for evidence-based literacy instruction. Understand the importance of instructional routines. Explore the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines resource, and reflect on the alignment of instructional routines.
My name is Olivia Alberts, Reading Specialist at the Nebraska Department of Education. This webinar series begins with an overview of the main theoretical models that explain the essential components to skilled reading. This will lead into the first component of word recognition skills, and the second part will include routines for language comprehension. The word recognition instructional routines are designed to briefly model most of the instructional routines in the foundational skills portion of a K-2 reading lesson. These routines are also commonly found in intervention lessons for striving readers in the 3rd grade and above. One widely known theoretical model of reading is Goff-and-Tumner's simple view of reading. The ultimate goal of reading is to comprehend text. And according to this model, reading comprehension is a product of word recognition, which is also referred to as decoding, and language comprehension. If a student is proficient in word recognition and language comprehension, the result is strong reading comprehension, or skilled reading. If a student has strong word recognition but a weakness in language comprehension, the student will not be able to comprehend what they read. Likewise, if a student has strong language comprehension and weak word recognition, the student will again not be able to comprehend what they read. Teachers often use this model as they begin to reflect on root causes underlying students' reading difficulties. There is not time to provide intervention that is not aligned to student need. The simple view of reading is one model teachers can use to begin to target the focus of instruction and intervention for students. Hollis Scarborough used the rope metaphor to expand on the simple view of reading and explain the complexity of reading to both parents and educators. The rope illustrates how the components of reading must be brought together, woven like the strands of a rope, to produce a skilled reader who can comprehend complex grade-level text. The strength of instructional routines are imperative as they become the mechanism by which explicit instruction is delivered for each strand of the rope and creates the environments for students to become strong readers. Word recognition skills are referred to as constrained, meaning they are sequential, finite, and easier to assess mastery of. Once these skills become automatic, the cognitive load shifts to allow more focus on the upper strands of the rope. Word recognition is covered in the first part of the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document, while language comprehension is covered in the second part. Explicit instruction on all strands of the rope is necessary. In contrast, language comprehension skills are referred to as unconstrained because they go on and on. Language comprehension skills are refined throughout our lives as we encounter text and have experiences that build knowledge. Human brains are wired to learn to speak, not to learn to read. In order to learn how to read, the brain must crack the written code that is used to represent spoken language. Educators must provide instruction to build these neural pathways within the brain. The frontal lobe is responsible for processing the speech sounds of English. It is responsible for pronunciation and articulation of phonemes, the smallest units of sound in the English language. The occipital lobe is responsible for the rapid and effortless recognition of graphemes. This area of the brain is often referred to as the visual word form area. The visual word form area is specialized to process printed words, not other visual stimuli such as faces or objects. The phonics chip lives at the junction of the parietal, occipital, and temporal lobes. The phonological and orthographic processing systems connect here, and the development of this area is critical for mapping phonemes to graphemes. These maps are stored in long-term memory and facilitate automatic retrieval of words. The temporal lobe houses the areas that are responsible for language comprehension. This is where spoken words are connected with meaning. When we learn to read, we are literally forming new neural pathways, which piggyback onto the oral language pathways and link up some new areas. The four-part processing model for word recognition, developed by Seidenberg and McClellan, is built on years of cognitive psychological experiments. Amazingly, this model was originally proposed before functional brain studies showed when and where mental activities occur. The four-part processing model is simplified from what actually occurs in the brain of a proficient reader. However, it is still useful because it can help educators understand the various ways reading problems might develop and why it is important to target several kinds of skills in reading instruction. As you can see, the colors in the four-part processing model correspond directly to the brain areas in the previous slide that must connect and work together for skilled reading to occur. The word bolt will be used for an example of the four-part processor in action. When the word bolt is said orally, the phonological processor activates. The phonological processor detects, recalls, and understands phonemes that make up spoken words and control the production of sound and words in spoken language. Development of the phonological processor occurs through instruction in phonemic awareness and phonics. When the word bolt is written on the board at the front of the classroom, the orthographic processor is activated. The orthographic processor recognizes, stores, and recalls the letters and combinations of letters that we use to recognize written language, and stores print information for retrieval to efficiently recognize and recall words for reading and spelling. The brain then employs both the phonological and orthographic processors to decode the word bolt using phonics. Development of the orthographic processor occurs during instruction in phonics. Once the brain has engaged the phonological and orthographic processors to decode the words, then the meaning processor is engaged. The meaning processor interprets word meanings and organizes words into meaning networks. The word bolt has several meanings. It could mean a jagged shaft of lightning, to run quickly away, a threaded pin that screws into a nut to hold things together, or a bar that slides into a socket to fasten a door or window. Development of the meaning processor occurs during intentional instruction in vocabulary and language. If the word is used in a sentence, the context processor will be engaged. The context processor provides support to the meaning processor by interpreting words based on language of a sentence, experience or circumstances, or knowledge of a concept. The bolt of lightning hit the clock tower last night. By using the language in the sentence and knowledge of a concept, the brain knows that in this case, the word bolt means a jagged shaft of lightning. The context processor is tied to our general cognitive development and strengthens through language acquisition. In a sense, we are educating all of the processing systems in the brain and enabling them to work together. Gibbons, Brown, and Niebling in the book Effective Universal Instruction, an Action-Oriented Approach to Improving Tier 1, reminds us that the universal tier, core instruction, is the first intervention for all students and is our opportunity to have the largest impact on student achievement by creating a sustainable and strong learning foundation upon which to build edifying supports for those who need them. Instructional routines prevent reading failure, make instruction more explicit, provide a common language for both students and teachers, as well as increase opportunities to respond. Instructional routines are the vehicle by which effective instruction is delivered. They are deliberately structured and sequenced teaching behaviors designed to support learning, promote confidence, and increase proficiency. When routines are used, students know what to expect and can focus on the content they are learning and practicing. For example, if the same strategy to sound out monosyllabic words is used every time, students are likely to remember that approach the next time they encounter a word they must sound out on their own. Instructional routines are the method by which effective teaching is delivered. They are carefully planned and structured actions designed to support learning, build confidence, and improve skills. When routines are used, students know what to expect and can focus on what they're learning. For instance, if the same strategy is used to sound out simple words, students are likely to remember it when they need to sound out words on their own. When instructional routines are consistently applied, an observer watching two different teachers using the same routine would see the same steps in the same order with similar language. This helps students focus on the content, not the routine. Instructional routines ensure all students receive the same quality of instruction and materials. Instructional routines are beneficial for both teachers and students. When teachers have the tools and training to do their job well, there is an increase in educator efficacy, which leads to improved student outcomes. Routines allow teachers to zero in on their craft and allow time for more student monitoring and checks for understanding. Routines encourage engagement and confidence. There is less teacher talk, more opportunities for students to respond, and increased student engagement, which also enhances classroom management. Routines also allow an increased focus and cognitive desk space to engage in new learning. Solid routines improve pacing, which in turn allows for all grade-level content to be covered. It helps ensure we are teaching evidence-based curriculum with fidelity. The queen of explicit instruction, Anita Archer, says that predictability predicts ability. When students know what to expect, they can use their cognitive energy to focus on the academic task or the skill being taught. The intention of the literacy routine map is to provide an example of how teachers can take any instructional routine from their core reading program and make the delivery more explicit and predictable. Tightening up a routine with explicit instruction, providing more opportunities for the student to respond, reducing teacher talk, and the offering of more repetition results in improved outcomes for striving readers.
My name is Mary Jo Macahose, and I am a systems consultant with Nebraska MTSS with a focus on literacy. The Nebraska Department of Education and NE MTSS work together to create the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document. This resource guide has been developed to provide Nebraska educators with consistent, systematic, and explicit routines to enhance the delivery of evidence-based instructional practices and comprehension strategies for use across all tiers of instruction. Foundational literacy instruction is essential to ensure all students become successful readers and writers. This resource is linked in the PDF of this slide, and a link is also provided in the reference slide at the end of this webinar series. A sequence of explicit, systematic phonics instruction provides the foundation for literacy. Nebraska's 2021 College and Career Ready Foundations of Reading standards align with the body of research known as the science of reading. A systematic approach to the foundational skills, concepts of print, phonological awareness, phonics, and word analysis, and fluency supports emergent readers as they develop proficiency during the early years. Print concepts refers to the awareness of how print works. Examples include print reads from left to right, words are separated by spaces, and basic knowledge of the parts of a book. Phonological or phonemic awareness is the ability to recognize and manipulate the sounds in spoken language. Young children begin developing phonological awareness by enjoying and reciting rhyming words and alliterative phrases from familiar stories, songs, or nursery rhymes. Phonics is the teaching of sound-symbol relationships. It's a method of teaching reading that emphasizes the relationship between spoken sounds, or phonemes, and the letters that represent them, graphemes. Phonics focuses on teaching students to recognize the sounds associated with individual letters and letter combinations. By understanding phonics, students can decode unfamiliar words by sounding out the individual letters and blending them together. Phonics also helps students with encoding or spelling by teaching them to match sounds with the correct letters. Phonics instruction can help students become more fluent readers by increasing their ability to recognize words automatically. Fluency is the ability to read accurately at an appropriate rate with expression. As the ability to decode or master letter-sound relationships improves, so does a student's ability to read smoothly and clearly. Fluency is considered the bridge to reading comprehension. A student is considered a proficient reader when both fluency and reading comprehension are at grade level. The foundations of reading routines are pictured here. Each of these routines has a linked video within the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document to demonstrate the use of the routine. In the upcoming chapters in this series, additional routines will be demonstrated for each skill. These routines are delivered regularly using elements of explicit instruction and align with the structure of an evidence-based reading lesson. If core instructional materials are missing any of these components, this resource can assist in strengthening foundational skills instruction. In the book, Next Steps in Literacy Instruction by Susan Smart and Deborah Glazer, the authors emphasize the importance of system coherence by articulating the use of unrelated activities without a connection to goals for learning is no longer an acceptable method of intervention for struggling readers. One way we can assure there is alignment across activities and plans to support literacy learning for all students is through a coherent teaming structure in which communication and collaboration are a top priority. The NE-MTSS teaming structure specifically highlights the utilization of our most important resources, time and people, to problem solve at all levels. This structure will be reflective of each district's available resources. In this webinar series, the provided examples focus on literacy learning supports, aligned activities, and improvement plans. District leadership teams are charged with designing and adjusting the overall system to ensure the success of each student. This is done through engaging in data-based problem-solving focused on instructional excellence in core content areas. Again, in this context, literacy. Additionally, the district leadership team develops capacity and ensures the infrastructure is in place to allow for effective teaching and learning. Continuously monitoring district-wide progress in literacy would be a key component to this team's work, along with the identification of barriers and the necessary enhancements to implementation of effective literacy practices. School leadership teams problem solve to ensure the effectiveness of Tier 1 core literacy instruction for all students with a focus on equitable access and opportunities. Resource allotment is another focus area for school leadership teams, as is monitoring fidelity of instruction and implementation of systematic, evidence-based, high-quality instructional materials. School-level literacy data monitoring is ongoing and generates continuous improvement action planning that aligns with district improvement goals. Collaborative teams may consist of grade-level or vertically aligned teams. These teams specifically focus on data-based problem-solving and decision-making on the delivery of quality instruction across all tiers of support. Student support team purpose is to focus on individualized support, regular reviews of progress monitoring data, and making intervention changes to meet the dynamic needs of the student. With additional literacy support, it is critical to ensure support is anchored in reading science, layered upon and aligned to grade-level Tier 1 core instruction, and driven by data. As mentioned when discussing teaming structures, a strategic way to make data-based decisions is through the use of a problem-solving model. When considering utilizing data to drive decisions, problem-solving is a key systematic function of all teams within a district. We invite you to pause here to consider the following questions. Ideally, these would be reflected upon and problem-solved within your building and collaborative teaming structures to create a consistent system for delivering instruction in foundational literacy skills that are effective for each student in your building, including those students in at-risk populations. In conclusion, the main points of this word recognition introduction include explored theoretical models and the implications for evidence-based literacy instruction, developed an understanding of the importance of instructional routines, explored the foundational literacy instructional routines resource, and reflected on the alignment of instructional routines. For more information on any of the instructional routines, please click on the respective chapter tab below. For additional information about any of the theoretical models shared in this webinar, these links are provided in the PDF version of the slides. The next chapter is phoneme blending and phoneme segmentation. This chapter will cover the following objectives. Understand the importance of phoneme blending and segmentation as it contributes to the development of skilled reading and spelling. Identify instructional implications. Explore how to teach phoneme blending and segmentation using an evidence-based routine. Discuss and apply implementation considerations. Why is blending and segmentation at the phoneme level important? Since human brains are naturally attuned to speech sounds, we begin our instruction with students by focusing on the fundamental building blocks of language. Those building blocks are referred to as phonemes and are the smallest unit of sound that can change the meaning of a word. The English alphabetic system represents language at the phoneme level, and proficient reading and spelling is strongly correlated to the ability to identify, remember, separate, combine, and manipulate phonemes, and to do so rapidly and without effort. The evidence-based instructional routines for phoneme blending and segmenting strengthen word recognition and decoding skills, as seen here in the Simple View of Reading model by Goff and Tunmer. As a reminder, a weakness in the area of word recognition or decoding, or in the area of language comprehension, will result in difficulty with the desired outcome of reading, which is reading comprehension. For this chapter of our series, the focus will be on the most foundational component of the word recognition portion of the Simple View of Reading, and that is phonemes. As phoneme blending and segmenting is developed, the word recognition strands in the lower portion of Scarborough's reading rope strengthen. Regular practice in these skills enhances word recognition to become increasingly automatic. Automaticity in word recognition lightens the cognitive load to allow more focus on the upper language strands of the reading rope. Explicit routines that emphasize phonological awareness, particularly phoneme blending and segmentation, strengthen the neural pathways responsible for this critical component of reading. This neural network, as seen in the teal area of the brain, plays a vital role in decoding words and comprehending written language. The four-part processing model for word recognition, developed by Seidenberg and McClelland, illustrates how different brain processors, phonological, orthographic, meaning, and context, work together for skilled reading. Though simplified, it helps educators understand reading development and target specific skills in instruction. Routines for blending and segmenting phonemes are developing the phonological processor. Phonemic awareness is developed through phoneme blending and segmenting and is a strong predictor of future reading success. This skill is particularly important when students begin to work with phoneme-grapheme mapping, which is matching sounds to letters and provides a strategy for students to both decode or read and encode or spell new words encountered in text. A routine for phoneme segmentation develops the student's ability to hear a word and identify each of the phonemes or sounds within the word. These routines allow students to become more automatic with the repetition of blending sounds into words, which in turn enhances fluency, spelling, and writing. Now let's talk about instructional implications. It is important to teach students the correct articulation of each of our English phonemes or sounds. If students do not learn these sounds correctly, it will cause difficulty with initial blending and segmenting of sounds and will most definitely show up later in a student's spelling and writing. Correct phoneme articulation provides a solid foundation for early reading by fostering accurate phoneme-grapheme sound or letter correspondence, developing phonological awareness, facilitating blending and segmenting, and supporting overall oral language development. The image on this slide is linked to a video from the Rollins Center that demonstrates the correct pronunciation of each of the English phonemes. It is also linked in the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines resource. Decades of research confirms that segmenting words into phonemes and blending phonemes into words contributes more to learning to read and spell than any of the other phonological awareness skills or advanced phonemic awareness skills. Additionally, according to most current research in phonemic awareness, sound training should be taught at the same time as new groups of letters are introduced. As Susan Brady said, the letters reinforce the phoneme awareness, and the phoneme awareness reinforces the letters. This type of instruction can be delivered in multiple settings, including whole class, small group, and one-to-one. A tenet of the science of teaching reading is systematic and sequential delivery. This reminds us to begin with easier skills and build into more complex skills across the learning continuum, using appropriate scaffolds along the way, such as beginning with external or easier to hear sounds, like beginning and ending, before moving into medial or middle sounds in words. To do systematic instruction with blending and segmenting, we would begin with 2 phoneme words before moving on to 3, 4, and 5 phoneme words, as well as more complex patterns of sounds. You will see various examples in the upcoming blending and segmentation routines in this webinar. Let's move into how to use the routines for phoneme blending and segmentation. Videos and cues are included in the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document. This chapter of the series will showcase one example of how to use these skills. Feel free to pause this video and practice at any time. In simple terms, blending is smoothly hooking the sounds together when sounding out words, and segmentation is the process of breaking a spoken word into individual speech sounds or phonemes. These skills contribute in many ways to a child becoming a strong reader and speller of words. One example of a routine for blending and segmenting is using Elkonin boxes. Elkonin boxes, also known as sound boxes, are a versatile, high-leverage, and evidence-based method that help emerging readers build phonemic awareness skills by segmenting words into individual sounds or phonemes. When working with words, the teacher can draw one box for each sound in a target word. Children push a chip into one box as they say each sound in the word. Later, once letters are connected to the sounds, Elkonin boxes can also be used in phonics instruction to support phoneme-grapheme mapping and blending these sounds and letters into words. This practice helps to strengthen the neural pathways in the brain that connect to the phonological and orthographic processors. As a reminder to be systematic and sequential, let's start with a 2-phoneme word example, at. Teacher starts by saying, "We are going to practice listening for sounds in given words and moving a chip into the box above for each sound we hear. The word is at. What is the word?" Students should repeat at. What is the first sound you hear in at? Students should say ah. Yes, it's ah. Teacher says, "What is the next sound you hear in the word at?" Emphasize t. Students say t. Yes, it's t. Now we will blend our sounds together. Next, model and have students touch the blending and sweeping line and move left to right while saying and blending the sounds together. At. The blending arrow is illustrating the action of blending the sounds together. Then the teacher says, "The word is at. What is the word?" Students respond, at. One of the highest benefits of using Elkonin boxes is that students are incorporating various modalities for building and strengthening those pathways in the brain. They see the word, they hear the word, they manipulate a concrete object, they touch and blend. This can be a powerful routine when students are actively engaged. The next example is a 3-phoneme word. We are going to practice listening for sounds in given words and moving a chip into the boxes above for each sound we hear. The word is sheep. What is the word? Students respond, sheep. What is the first sound you hear in sheep? Students respond, sh. Yes, it's sh. Move your first chip up to represent the sound sh. What is the next sound you hear in the word sheep? Students respond, e. Yes, it's e. Move your next chip up to represent the sound e. What is the last sound you hear in the word sheep? Students respond, p. Yes, it's p. Move your next chip up to represent the sound p. Now we will blend our sounds together. Students touch the blending and sweeping line and move left to right while saying and blending and connecting the sounds together. Sheep. The word is sheep. What is the word? Students respond, sheep. Notice, as we shift to segmenting routine examples, there is no blending line at the bottom. You may use a tapping or finger counting strategy for segmentation or something else recommended in your high-quality instructional materials. The example used here, in which a manipulative is used to represent sounds, is just one example. Ultimately, be consistent in your segmenting routine across classrooms in your building. The first example will be a 2-phoneme word. We are going to practice pulling apart or segmenting the sounds in given words. Let's try this together. The first word is do. What is the word? Students respond, do. We will use our chips to represent the sounds we hear. Let's say the first sound in the word do. What is the first sound we hear in the word d-oo? Students respond, d. Yes, you are right, it's d. Let's move our first chip up for the sound d. Model the d sound and moving a chip into the box above. What is the next sound in the word d-oo? Students respond, oo. Yes, you are right, it's oo. Let's move our next chip up for the sound oo. Model moving the next chip into the box while saying the sound oo. Then ask students, how many sounds are in the word do? Students will respond, 2. To build on and confirm the segmentation, students count the chips or count with their fingers as you repeat the individual sounds, tap and say. As students get familiar with this routine, extensions could include asking specific questions about each sound, such as identifying beginning sounds and ending sounds or medial vowel sounds. A more advanced skill would be to do some sound chaining in which you might change one positional phoneme at a time using different colored chips, or move into having students write the grapheme and letter that corresponds to the sound. The next example of segmentation is using a 4-phoneme word. We are going to practice pulling out or segmenting the sounds in given words. Let's try this together. The word is slid. What is the word? Students respond, slid. We will use our chips to represent the sounds we hear. Let's say the first sound in the word slid. What is the first sound in slid? Students say s. Yes, it's s. Let's move our first chip up to the sound for the sound s. Model the s sound and moving a chip into the box above. What is the next sound in the word slid? Students respond, ol. Yes, you are right, it's ol. Let's move our next chip up for the sound ol. Model the ol sound and moving a chip into the box above. What is the next sound in the word slid? Students respond, I. Yes, you are right, it's I. Let's move our next chip up for the sound I. Model the I sound and moving a chip into the box above. All the while, you may be also using your counting fingers or tapping, whatever your school has agreed upon, to help with students hearing individual sounds. What is the last sound in the word slid? Students respond, d. Yes, you are right, it's d. Let's move our next chip up for the sound d. Model the d sound and moving a chip into the box above. How many sounds are in the word slid? Students will respond, 4. Let's touch and say the sounds together. S-l-i-d. As a reminder, there is another video that is accessed through the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document that includes another demonstration of a phoneme blending routine, as well as another video that includes a demonstration of a phoneme segmentation routine. One key component of ensuring effective foundational literacy instruction for each student is fidelity of implementation. Your team will be provided with some guiding questions in order for you to consider an implementation plan for your district. This is a place that your team may wish to pause the video and discuss these questions. In conclusion, this chapter of the webinar covered the following: developed an understanding of the importance of phoneme blending and segmentation as it contributes to the development of skilled reading and spelling, identified instructional implications for phoneme blending and segmentation, explored how to teach phoneme blending and segmentation using an evidence-based routine, and discussed and applied implementation considerations. For more information on any of the other instructional routines, please click on the respective chapter tab below.
The next chapter includes letter names, letter sounds, sound spelling cards, and sound spelling card review. This chapter will cover the following objectives: Understand why letter names and sounds, sound spelling cards, and sound spelling review are important foundational reading skills. Identify instructional implications. Explore how to teach letter names and sounds, sound spelling cards, and sound spelling with instructional routines. Discuss and apply implementation considerations. Why is it important to introduce and review letter names, sounds, and sound spelling cards? The evidence-based instructional routines around phoneme blending and segmenting strengthen word recognition and decoding skills as seen here in the Simple View of Reading model by Goff and Tumner. As a reminder, a weakness in the area of word recognition, decoding, or language comprehension will result in difficulty with the desired outcome of reading comprehension. As we develop phoneme blending and segmenting, we are strengthening the word recognition strands of Scarborough's reading rope to become increasingly automatic and freeing the cognitive load to focus on the upper strands of the rope. Explicit routines that emphasize phonological awareness, particularly letter names and sounds, strengthen the neural pathways responsible for this critical component of reading. This neural network in the teal area of the brain plays a vital role in decoding words and comprehending written language. The 4-part processing model for word recognition, developed by Seidenberg and McClelland, illustrates how different brain processors, phonological, orthographic, meaning, and context, work together for skilled reading. Though simplified, it helps educators understand reading development and target specific skills in instruction. Routines for letter names and sounds are developing the phonological and orthographic processor. This routine is used to introduce students to the visual cue, the sound and spelling patterns all at once. The picture provides a visual reminder of the sound associated with the spelling pattern. The sound spelling cards represent the most frequent of the 250 graphemes related to the 44 phonemes in the English language. This routine is used once students have been introduced to a sound spelling card, which uses the picture, sound, and spelling, letter pattern. The review of letter names and sounds is designed to secure the names and sounds in the student's long-term memory, thus facilitating automatic retrieval. This routine develops a student's ability to quickly recognize letter combinations and assign a sound to the combinations. This routine is particularly helpful with complex patterns such as digraphs, trigraphs, and vowel combinations. As with the letter names and letter sound review routine, this routine should be used once the sound spelling card is introduced with complex spelling patterns. Now let's talk about instructional implications. If a child memorizes 10 words, they can read 10 words. Not bad, right? But what happens if that same child learns the sounds of just 10 letters? The child can now read 350 3-sound words, 4,320 4-sound words, and 21,650 5-sound words. This quote by Dr. Martin Kozlov highlights the impact of phonics instruction on a child's reading abilities. Memorizing a limited number of whole words only allows a child to read those specific words. However, learning the sounds associated with letters gives a child the skills to decode and read countless words by blending those sounds together. This foundational understanding of phonics opens up a vast world of reading possibilities, fostering greater reading fluency, comprehension, and a lifelong love of learning. Understanding the difference between continuous and stop sounds is essential to helping students decode words when reading. Recognizing whether a sound can be stretched or not and blending sounds smoothly. By providing precise instruction from the start, the confusion and difficulty from learning inaccurate sounds are prevented, and students will have the lifelong benefit of a solid literacy foundation. Accurate phonemic awareness is essential for effective word recognition and spelling. Ensuring that students learn the correct sounds from the beginning sets a strong foundation for their reading and writing abilities. Continuous sounds are those that can be stretched out or elongated without distorting the sound. Examples include s, f, and ul. Stop sounds are brief and cannot be stretched. Examples include b, d, g, and t. These sounds are produced quickly and abruptly. For example, the sound b is a quick burst. We can't extend it, otherwise we add the schwa sound. 2 letters start as stop sounds, then finish as a continuous sound. The letter X has 2 sounds, a k, a stop sound, and s, a continuous sound. How to use the routines. Videos and cues are included in the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document. This chapter of the series will showcase different examples of how to use these skills. Feel free to pause this video and practice at any time. In the English language, there are 44 phonemes and 250 graphemes. Wow, that is a lot of sound and spelling correspondences. This is why it is important to ensure students are explicitly taught simple and complex sound spelling patterns. Start by holding up the sound spelling card and saying, "Picture is." Point to the picture again and say, "Sound is." Finally, point to the spelling on the card and say, "Spelling is." Once students are familiar with the sound spelling card, let them demonstrate their knowledge. Point to the picture and say, "Picture." Then pause and tap the card to prompt the student to name the picture. Next, point to the picture again and say, "Sound." Then pause and tap to prompt the student to name the sound. Lastly, point to the spelling on the card and say, "Spelling." Then pause and tap to prompt the student to name the spelling pattern. This structured method ensures clear and accurate learning, reinforcing the correct sound spelling relationships through repetition and practice. Sound spelling cards are great for developing phonemic awareness, which is crucial for decoding words. When diving deep into sound spelling patterns, students begin to grow their spelling skills. Understanding the varying spelling patterns allows students to spell new and tricky words. As a reminder, there is another video that is accessed through the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document that includes another demonstration of a sound spelling card routine. Here is another example. Point to the picture and say, "The picture is under." Then point to the picture once more and say, "The sound is Finally, point to the spelling and say, "The spelling is you." It is always important to ensure sound spelling cards represent the true sound the letter makes. Any variation of this routine should take 1 minute. Letter name and sound routines are essential components of early literacy instruction, targeting the accurate teaching of letter name and sound correspondence for each letter. These routines play a crucial role in helping children build a solid foundation for reading and writing. Before starting this routine, students should be familiar with sound spelling cards. Point to the left of the letter and say, "Name" or "Sound," pausing a few seconds before touching under the letter. Touching under the letter indicates students must produce the name or sound, depending on what the educator is asking them to do. Tapping under the letter indicates a stop sound. Holding your finger under the letter indicates a continuous sound. This routine should be a quick process. As a reminder, there is another video that is accessed through the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document that includes another demonstration of a letter name and letter sound routine. Before starting this routine, students should be very familiar with sound spelling combinations. Point to the left of the letter and say, "Sound," pausing a few seconds before touching under the letter combination. This routine should be a quick process. Students are working on building their automaticity with this practice. There is also a video that is accessed through the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document that includes a demonstration of sound spelling review routine. Read and write the row is another effective approach for sound spelling review. Begin by creating a template that aligns with the targeted sound spelling combinations and consider laminating it or using sleeve protectors with whiteboard markers. These can be pre-made and reused. To use the template, point to the left of the letter in row 1 and say, "Sound," pausing briefly before touching under the letter combination. Next, have students write the combination while saying it aloud once more. As noted in the previous chapter, the National Reading Panel emphasizes that manipulating letters during phonemic awareness instruction is more effective for improving reading outcomes than instruction that is purely oral. Adding a quick writing component provides additional support and reinforces learning. Any variation of this routine should take 1 to 2 minutes. One key component of ensuring effective foundational literacy instruction for each student is fidelity of implementation. Your team will be provided with some guiding questions in order for you to consider an implementation plan for your district. This is a place that your team may wish to pause the video and discuss these questions. In conclusion, this chapter of the webinar covered the following: developed an understanding of why letter names and sound spelling cards, and sound spelling review are important routines to develop foundational reading skills, identified instructional implications, explored how to teach letter names and sounds, sound spelling cards, and sound spelling review with instructional routines, discussed and applied implementation considerations. For more information on any of the other instructional routines, please click on the respective chapter tab below. The next chapter is continuous blending, sound-by-sound blending, and vowel-first blending. This chapter will cover the following objectives. Understand why continuous blending, sound-by-sound blending, and vowel-first blending are important foundational reading skills. Identify instructional implications. Explore how to teach continuous blending, sound-by-sound blending, and vowel-first blending with an instructional routine. Discuss and apply implementation considerations. Why is it important to introduce and review blending routines? The evidence-based instructional routines around phoneme blending and segmenting strengthen word recognition and decoding skills as seen here in the Simple View of Reading by Goff and Tumner. As a reminder, a weakness in the area of word recognition, decoding, or language comprehension will result in difficulty with the desired outcome of reading comprehension. As we develop phoneme blending and segmenting, we are strengthening the word recognition strands of Scarborough's reading rope to become increasingly automatic and freeing the cognitive load to focus on the upper strands of the rope. Explicit routines that emphasize phonological awareness, particularly phoneme blending and segmentation, strengthen the neural pathways responsible for this critical component of reading. This neural network is the teal area of the brain, plays a vital role in decoding words and comprehending written language. The four-part processing model for word recognition, developed by Seidenberg and McClelland, illustrates how different brain processors, phonological, orthographic, meaning, and context work together for skilled reading. Though simplified, it helps educators understand reading development and target specific skills in instruction. Routines for blending are developing the phonological and orthographic processor. This routine develops the student's ability to associate sounds within letter strings and blend those sounds together to make words. This is a kindergarten skill, and students who are learning to read need modeling and support when first beginning to read. This routine is designed to be used with consonant-vowel-consonant, or CVC patterns. More complex patterns are served better with the more advanced blending routines. This routine often begins in the middle of kindergarten and is used through the middle of first grade. This routine develops the student's ability to unitize familiar letter patterns without consciously treating each sound separately. This is particularly important as the spelling patterns become more complex. Use of this routine can be helpful for struggling readers who read complex spelling patterns letter by letter. This routine begins the middle of the first grade and can be highly effective for struggling students as well. This routine develops the student's ability to identify the complex vowel within a single syllable word and then go back and read the entire word. Complex vowel patterns often give students trouble, and this routine is designed for students to identify the vowel combination before they begin to tackle the word. Once students begin multisyllabic reading, this routine becomes even more important as students use this routine with each syllable in larger words. Now let's talk about instructional implications. Understanding the difference between continuous and stop sounds is essential to helping students decode words when reading. Recognizing whether a sound can be stretched or not helps in blending sounds smoothly. By providing precise instruction from the start, the confusion and difficulty from learning inaccurate sounds are prevented, and students will have the lifelong benefit of a solid literacy foundation. Accurate phonemic awareness is essential for effective word recognition and spelling. Ensuring that students learn the correct sounds from the beginning sets a strong foundation for their reading and writing abilities. Continuous sounds are those that can be stretched out or elongated without distorting the sound. Examples include s, f, and l. Stop sounds are brief and cannot be stretched. Examples include b, d, g, and t. These sounds are produced quickly and abruptly. For example, the sound b is a quick burst. We can't extend it, otherwise we add the schwa sound. Two letters start as stop sounds, then finish as a continuous sound. The letter X has two sounds, k, a stop sound, and s, a continuous sound. When teaching blending sounds, selecting appropriate practice words can significantly impact their successes and confidence in learning to read. Begin with words that have simple, predictable sound patterns and are easy to decode and blend, such as cat, sit, or map. Phonetically regular words help reinforce the basic principles of blending sounds. As students become more comfortable with blending, gradually introduce more complex words. Move from single-syllable words to multisyllable words, and from simple CVC, consonant-vowel-consonant patterns to more complex ones. Pay attention to the specific sounds within the words you choose to ensure that those selected have already been learned and practiced. Introducing unfamiliar sounds too soon can cause confusion and frustration. Different blending routines may work better for some students than others. Try various combinations of continuous, sound-by-sound, and vowel-first blending to find the right fit for your students. When considering words, it is important to include syllables alongside real words in blending practice to ensure a smooth transition when students begin working with multisyllabic words. These routines can be used for whole class, small group, or during one-to-one instruction. How to use these routines. Videos and cues are included in the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document. This chapter of the series will showcase 3 different examples of how to use these skills. Feel free to pause this video and practice at any time. Continuous blending involves smoothly and continuously blending letter sounds without pauses between them. This approach is considered easier for children to grasp compared to other forms of phoneme blending because it closely mirrors natural human speech patterns. It encourages children to connect sounds, leading to smoother and more automatic reading. This method can be particularly helpful for early readers or those struggling with decoding CVC words, as it reduces cognitive load by minimizing the need to break down and reassemble sounds repeatedly. As a reminder, there is another video that is accessed through the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document that includes another demonstration of a continuous blending routine. Another 2 to 3 minute routine to practice continuous blending is creating a word chain. The first link is labeled with a word. The word labeled on the next link has one varying letter, and this pattern repeats to add a new initial sound. For example, bat, then hat, then cat, and so on. Students read through the chain, blending the sounds in the word as they go. Listen for students to use previously taught phoneme-grapheme representations and that the shift in words occur one sound at a time. Any variation of this routine should take 2 to 3 minutes and could be done as an encoding or decoding activity. Sound-by-sound blending involves producing each individual sound, phoneme, in a word, blending the sounds together as they are added. Students begin by saying the first sound, then the second sound, and then blending the two together. They continue this process adding one sound at a time and blending it with the previously blended sounds until the entire word has been sounded out. Sound-by-sound blending might be challenging for some children compared to continuous blending because it involves pausing between sounds, which is less natural than the flow of continuous blending. Teachers often use a combination of both methods to work with different learning needs and to build a varying set of phonics skills. This skill specifically targets students' abilities to read words as parts or units. Any variation of this routine should take 2 to 3 minutes. As a reminder, there is another video that is accessed through the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document that includes another demonstration of a sound-by-sound blending routine. This example has a small variation in language but contains the same concept of blending sound by sound. Start by writing the letter S on the board. Ask the student, what sound? The expected response is S. Once the student correctly responds, add an A next to the previous letter, forming S, A. Now ask the student, what sound? The response should be A. Then say, blend the sounds. Once the student correctly responds with sa, write t. Ask, what sound? The expected response is t. Then, just like before, prompt the student to blend the sounds together by saying, blend the sounds. Finally, ask the student, what word? Allowing the student to state the word, sat. Any variation of this routine should take 2 to 3 minutes. Vowel-first blending starts with the vowel combination when blending a word. In this method, first identify and pronounce the vowel sound in a word, then go back and read the whole word. This approach is especially helpful for young readers who have more difficulty decoding vowels than consonants. Vowel sounds have multiple sounds and can be tricky to master. By focusing on the vowel sound first, students anchor their understanding of the word's phonetic structure and build reading confidence and accuracy. As a reminder, there is another video that is accessed through the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document that includes another demonstration of a vowel-first blending routine. Another activity to practice vowel-first blending is creating a vowel sort. Prepare a variety of word cards that introduce different vowel sounds. Identify vowel combinations and have students pronounce vowel sounds. Then go back and read the whole word. After correctly reading, sort cards based on the vowel sounds they hear. Any variation of this routine should take 2 minutes. One key component of ensuring effective foundational literacy instruction for each student is fidelity of implementation. Your team will be provided with some guiding questions in order for you to consider an implementation plan for your district. This is a place that your team may wish to pause the video and discuss these questions. In conclusion, this chapter of the webinar covered the following: developed an understanding of why continuous blending, sound-by-sound blending, and vowel-first blending are important routines to develop foundational reading skills, identify instructional implications, explore how to teach continuous blending, sound-by-sound blending, and vowel-first blending with instructional routines, discussed and applied implementation considerations. For more information on any of the other instructional routines, please click on the respective chapter tab below.
The next chapter is vowel-first blending with multisyllabic words. This chapter will cover the following objectives. Understand why vowel-first blending of multisyllabic words is an important foundational reading skill. Identify the instructional implications of vowel-first blending of multisyllabic words. Explore how to teach vowel-first blending with an instructional routine. Discuss and apply key takeaways. Why is it important to develop vowel-first blending for decoding multisyllabic words? The evidence-based instructional routine of vowel-first blending with multisyllabic words strengthens word recognition and decoding skills as seen here in the Simple View of Reading model by Goff and Tunmer. As a reminder, a weakness in the area of word recognition decoding or language comprehension will result in difficulty with the desired outcome of reading comprehension. As we develop blending of multisyllabic words, we are strengthening the word recognition strands of Scarborough's reading rope to become increasingly automatic and freeing the cognitive load to focus on the upper strands of the rope. Explicit routines that emphasize phonological awareness, the visual word form area, and the phonics chip, particularly vowel-first blending with multisyllabic words, strengthen the neural pathways responsible for this critical component of reading. These neural networks in the teal, green, and maroon areas of the brain play a vital role in decoding words and comprehending written language. The 4-part processing model for word recognition, developed by Seidenberg and McClelland, illustrates how different brain processors, phonological, orthographic, meaning, and context, work together for skilled reading. Though simplified, it helps educators understand reading development and target specific skills in instruction. The routines for vowel-first blending are developing the phonological and orthographic processors. This routine develops the student's ability to identify the complex vowel within a single syllable word and then go back and read the entire word. Complex vowel patterns often give students trouble, and this routine is designed for students to identify the vowel combination before they begin to tackle the word. This routine begins the middle of first grade and can be highly effective for struggling students as well. Once students begin multisyllabic reading, this routine becomes even more important as students use this routine with each syllable in larger words to enhance reading fluency. Now, let's talk about instructional implications. Implementing vowel-first blending strategies in literacy instruction can significantly enhance students' abilities to decode and read multisyllabic words. Students need a strategy for decoding longer words to avoid wild guessing or over-reliance on context. Breaking longer words into manageable parts or chunks makes it easier for students to read them. By focusing on phonemic awareness, systematic blending techniques, multisensory approaches, reinforcement through practice, and differentiated instruction, teachers can support their students in becoming proficient readers. Being able to read multisyllabic words will allow students to read long words in content area textbooks, read accurately, quickly, and with confidence, increase oral and silent reading fluency, improve comprehension as decoding and fluency increase. Students encounter multisyllabic words in early grades in the different content areas. Take advantage of using this routine in math, science, or social studies. This routine can be used in whole group instruction, with small groups, or even when working one-on-one with students. Posting a picture of the routine on the classroom wall will be helpful for students as they encounter multisyllabic words throughout the day. It also serves as a great reminder to adults to use the consistent routine. How to use vowel-first blending with multisyllabic words routines. Videos and cues are included in the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document. This chapter of the series will demonstrate how to use this skill. Feel free to pause this video and practice at any time. A multisyllabic blending routine may include these steps. Box any familiar suffixes. The teacher will prompt students to box the familiar suffixes. Circle any familiar prefixes. The teacher gives a prompt to circle any familiar prefixes. Locate and put a line under each vowel grapheme in the word. Do not mark silent E. Remember, vowel teams are one sound. The teacher will prompt students to draw a line under each vowel grapheme in the word. Depending on the needs of students, the teacher may give a reminder not to mark silent E or that vowel teams are one sound. Use knowledge of syllables to decode the vowel sounds. Scoop a finger or pencil under each syllable, blending sounds from left to right. The teacher can model by swooping a finger under each syllable while students read each syllable. Say the whole word. See if it makes sense. If it doesn't sound right, flex the vowel sound or sounds and try it different ways. The teacher will swoop a finger under the whole word while students read the whole word. Check the context for clarification, if necessary. The teacher can prompt students to read the entire sentence to make sure the word makes sense or to check the meaning of the word. Do you see any familiar suffixes? Yes, ing. Draw a box around ing. Do you see any familiar prefixes? Yes, re. Draw a circle around re. Do you see any vowel graphemes? Yes, OU. Underline the OU. Now we will read each syllable. What is the first syllable? Yes, re. What is the next syllable? Yes, group. What is the last syllable? Yes, ing. What is the whole word? Yes, regrouping. Do you see any familiar suffixes to box? Right, there are not any familiar suffixes. Do you see any familiar prefixes to circle? Correct, there are not any familiar prefixes. Now, locate and put a line under each vowel grapheme in the word. Do not mark a silent E. Remember, vowel teams are one sound. The vowels in this word are U and A. Now use knowledge of syllables to decode the vowel sounds. You'll scoop a finger or pencil under each syllable, blending sounds from left to right. The first syllable is, yes, musk. The next syllable is, yes, rat. Now say the whole word. Yes, muskrat. See if it makes sense. If it doesn't sound right, flex the vowel sound or sounds and try it different ways. If this word was in a sentence or story, students can check the context for clarification if necessary. As a reminder, there's another video that is accessed through the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document that includes another demonstration of vowel-first blending with multisyllabic words routine. One key component of ensuring effective foundational literacy instruction for each student is fidelity of implementation. Your team will be provided with some guiding questions in order for you to consider an implementation plan for your district. This is a place your team may wish to pause the video and discuss these questions. In conclusion, this chapter of the webinar covered the following. Developed an understanding of why vowel-first blending is an important foundational reading skill, identified instructional implications, explored how to teach vowel-first blending with an instructional routine, discussed and applied key takeaways. For more information on any of the other instructional routines, please click on the respective chapter tab below.
The next chapter is Affixes and Latin and Greek Roots, Introduction and Review. This chapter will cover the following objectives. Understand why affixes and Latin and Greek roots are important foundational literacy skills. Identify instructional implications. Explore how to teach affixes and Latin and Greek roots with instructional routines. And discuss and apply implementation considerations. Let's explore the importance of affixes and Latin and Greek roots and why to introduce and review them. This chapter of the series will focus on the evidence-based instructional routines for affixes and Latin and Greek roots. These meaningful parts of words support all areas of language and enhance our goal of reading comprehension. By understanding affixes and Latin and Greek roots, or morphological word parts, students will strengthen both their word recognition, decoding skills, and language comprehension, as shown in the Goff and Tunmer Simple View of Reading model. As learning develops to meaningful word parts with instruction on affixes and roots, there is overlap between the word recognition and language comprehension strands of Scarborough's reading rope. Instruction on meaningful parts of words is a useful strategy that provides students an extra layer to strengthen the ability to truly own a word and orthographically map it in the brain for instant retrieval. Morphology, the study of the structure and formation of words, is a foundational aspect of learning the English language. It is particularly crucial for decoding multisyllabic words and understanding written language. Explicit routines emphasizing affix and root-based word awareness can strengthen neural networks and connect to the different brain regions depicted in the graphic. The four-part processing model for word recognition, developed by Seidenberg and McClelland, illustrates how different brain processors, phonological, orthographic, meaning, and context, work together for skilled reading. Though simplified, it helps educators understand reading development and targets specific skills in instruction. Routines for affix and root or base word learning are a morphological approach. This approach complements and is layered upon a phonological approach to decoding and provides another way for the brain to decode, connecting not only the phonological and orthographic processors, but tying into the meaning processor as well. As we move through this webinar, it is important that we establish a basic understanding of the used terms. Morpheme, the smallest part of a word that has meaning. Morphology, the study of these morphemes in words. Morphological awareness, the awareness that words are comprised of these morphemes. Note the example of the word morphology broken out into its meaningful parts. Because the English language is morphophonemic and represents both sound and meaning, understanding word parts is crucial for breaking down unfamiliar words and grasping their meanings. This skill becomes increasingly important as students encounter more complex academic vocabulary and multisyllabic words in upper elementary and middle school. Louisa Moats highlights that morphology, awareness of word parts, not only supports word recognition, memory, and recall beyond phonological and orthographic awareness, but it also enhances reading comprehension and written expression. Because of this, teaching morphological relationships directly and explicitly is essential, as it impacts all key areas of reading development. Specifically, the word parts to focus on are prefixes, root and base word, and suffixes. A prefix is a letter or group of letters added to the beginning of root words to change the meaning of a word. Root or base word is the most basic part of a word. Bound roots cannot stand alone. An example would be mit, meaning to send or to throw. It is not a word on its own, but can be seen in words like commit, submit, and permit. Free roots can stand alone. An example of a free root would be port, P-O-R-T, meaning to carry. A suffix is a letter or group of letters added to the end of root words to change the meaning of the word. Thinking about the basis and evolution of our English language, many of our words are made from Latin and Greek root words. In essence, knowledge of prefixes, suffixes, and root words empowers readers to become more independent and confident in their ability to understand and interpret written language. It becomes a strong tool that leans into both phonology and meaning, enhancing decoding and language comprehension. It's always important to know the why behind instructional methods. A meta-analysis of 22 morphology studies conducted by Bowers and team found that morphology instruction benefits learners, especially less proficient readers, when it is integrated into other aspects of literacy instruction and includes a problem-solving approach. Explicit instruction in affixes is a valuable strategy for improving students' vocabulary, reading comprehension, writing skills, and overall language proficiency. By understanding the building blocks of words, students can become more confident in their ability to break down words. For additional information on explicit instruction in correlation with effective evidence-based practices that support all students, click on the link in the PDF version of these slides linked below. Now let's discuss instructional implications. Morphology instruction is explicit. We provide this by modeling, I do it. Ensure students understand the meaning of each morpheme, how it's spelled, and how it's pronounced. Guided practice, we do it. Provide students with sets of words that share common morphemes to practice decoding, reading, writing, and understanding their meanings. Independent practice, you do it. Encourage students to practice repeatedly and use newly learned words in sentences, passages, and in the context of their own conversations. Systematic instruction is a teaching method that involves breaking lessons into a clear, sequential, and logical progression of steps. The goal is to help students build on their existing skills, to learn new concepts and skills, and to understand what they need to do to complete a task. Start with inflectional suffixes or endings like ed, s, ing, es, er, and est. Students are often already familiar with many common inflectional endings, such as adding s for plural nouns. This existing knowledge can serve as a solid foundation for understanding other morphemes. These suffixes do not change the part of speech, but do modify the word's tense, number, or degree. An example would be the word cat to cats, or play to playing. Introduce the most common prefixes that students will see most often in text. There is a link in this section that will provide you with a list of those most frequently used. The focus of instruction here is how these prefixes modify the meanings of root words. Explore more complex morphemes and word forms. Gradually introduce more complex morphemes, including less common prefixes and derivational suffixes that change the part of speech or meaning of a word. An example would be adding the suffix ness to happy, changing the part of speech from adjective to noun, or adding the suffix ment to entertain, changing the verb to a noun. How to use the affixes and Latin and Greek roots routines. Videos and cues are included in the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document. This chapter of the series will showcase an example of how to use these skills. Feel free to pause this video and practice at any time. A morphology routine on introducing affixes and base or root words may include the following steps. Teacher begins with, today we are going to use prefixes, base words, and suffixes to determine word meanings. This will help you understand more words when you are reading. Remember, a base or root word is a word that can have a prefix or suffix added to it. Steps. What is a base or root word? Students respond, a word that can have a prefix or suffix added to it. Yes, that's right. When a prefix or suffix is added to a base or root word, the word's meaning changes and a new word is formed. A prefix is added to the beginning of a word and a suffix is added to the end of a word. Teacher shows the prefix card. Pre is a prefix. The prefix pre means before. What does pre mean? Students respond before. Next, the teacher will hold up a base word card, example test. Place the word card next to the first prefix, pre, and then point to the base word. Let's read this base word, test. Now I'm going to put this base word, test, with the prefix pre. What is the prefix? Students respond pre. What is the base word? Students respond test. What is the whole word? Students respond pretest. Teacher will point to each word part as the word is read. That's right, when I add the prefix pre to the word test, I get a new word, pretest. What does pre mean? Students respond before. So, pretest means a test that comes before the main test. I determined the meaning of a word using a prefix and a base word. What does pretest mean? Students respond, a test that comes before the main test. How did I know the meaning of the word? Students respond, because pre means before, so pretest means a test before. Yes, pretest means a test before the main test. We take a pretest for spelling on Monday. It is the test of the words before the main test on Friday. Teacher points to the complete word card, pretest. As a reminder, there's another video that is accessed to the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document that includes another demonstration of a routine used for teaching some common affixes. One key component of ensuring effective foundational literacy instruction for each student is fidelity of implementation. Your team will be provided with some guiding questions in order for you to consider an implementation plan for your district. This is a place that your team may wish to pause the video and discuss these questions. In conclusion, this chapter of the webinar covered the following: understanding why affixes and Latin and Greek roots are important to foundational literacy skills, identified instructional implications, explored how to teach introductory affixes and Latin and Greek roots using instructional routines, and discussed and applied implementation considerations. For more information on any of the other instructional routines, please click on the respective chapter tab below. The next chapter is high-frequency words, including the spiral review of high-frequency words. This chapter will cover the following objectives: understand why high-frequency word instruction, including spiral review, strengthens foundational reading skills. Identify instructional implications. Explore how to teach high-frequency words using instructional routines. And discuss and apply implementation considerations. Why is it important to use a routine to teach high-frequency words and to include a regular spiral review? The evidence-based instructional routines with high-frequency word introduction and review strengthen word recognition and decoding skills, as seen here in the Simple View of Reading model by Goff and Tunmer. As a reminder, a weakness in either component of the Simple View equation, word recognition, decoding, or language comprehension, will result in difficulty in reading comprehension, which is the goal of skilled reading. For this chapter of the series, the focus will be within the word recognition portion of the Simple View of Reading, as a routine for learning new words, including words with irregular components, is explored. As we develop mapping of new high-frequency words, both regular and irregular spelling patterns, to our long-term memory, the word recognition strands of Scarborough's reading rope are strengthened to become increasingly automatic and free up cognitive space to focus on the upper language comprehension strands of the rope. This in turn also strengthens fluency, which is often described as the bridged comprehension. Explicit routines that emphasize orthographic mapping of words to long-term memory, particularly teaching high-frequency word structure, strengthen the neural pathways responsible for this critical component of reading. This neural network, starting in the occipital lobe, green area on the image of the brain, which is often referred to as the brain's letterbox. Then connecting to the parietal and temporal lobes, red and yellow, where both phonology and meaning come into play. This provides a vital role in decoding words at an automatic and seemingly unconscious level, thus strengthening fluency and overall reading comprehension. The four-part processing model for word recognition, developed by Seidenberg and McClelland illustrates how different brain processors, phonological, orthographic, meaning, and context, work together for skilled reading. Though simplified, it helps educators understand reading development and target specific skills in instruction. Routines for learning high-frequency words are developing both the phonological and orthographic processors in the brain, as well as tying in meaning and context. A well-designed high-frequency word instructional routine is specifically designed to help students learn and recall frequently used words. Regular exposure and practice allow for accuracy and automaticity in word reading. Repeated exposure to high-frequency words is a key component of effective instruction. This repetition provides ample opportunities for students to strengthen brain pathways and map words into long-term memory. The phonological processor plays a crucial role in processing and storing spoken language. When students encounter high-frequency words, their phonological processor helps them recognize and remember the word's sound patterns, which can aid in recognition and recall. The terms sight words and high-frequency words are often used interchangeably, but they have distinct meanings. Sight words are words that are recognized instantly, while high-frequency words are simply words that appear frequently. While many schools use high-frequency word lists to promote sight word recognition, memorization alone is not enough. Phonics and phonemic awareness are also crucial in learning new words. Many high-frequency words have irregular spelling patterns that cannot be easily decoded, but most words have only one or two irregular letters. With practice, skilled readers can quickly learn these irregular word parts, which is a more effective approach versus whole word memorization. The overall goal being that all words, through explicit instruction and learning, will become recognizable automatically by sight. When readers can recognize words automatically, they can focus more on understanding the meaning of the text rather than struggling with decoding individual words. This leads to smoother, more fluent reading and better comprehension. This process, in which a word is stored permanently in memory and instantly retrieved, is called orthographic mapping. Now let's discuss instructional implications. When providing explicit and systematic instruction for high-frequency words, consider the following. Introduce words that occur at a greater frequency than those that do not occur as frequently. Separate high-frequency words into two groups, those words that have regular spellings and those that have irregular spellings. Align high-frequency word instruction to the phonics scope and sequence. Only introduce a few words at a time. Introduce words in isolation and provide direct instruction on decoding prior to reading them in text. Point out any irregular word parts. For example, the AI in said says short e, not a, long a. Incorporate cumulative review of previously taught words daily. Provide multiple opportunities for students to read, build, and write words. Spiral review and practice is a teaching method that involves revisiting topics repeatedly, with each revisiting building on the previous one. The goal is to help students gain a deeper understanding of the material and improve their skills. Spiraled practice can be used interchangeably with both distributed and cumulative practice. Using a high-frequency word instructional routine in daily review corresponds to numerous components of Anita Archer and Charles Hughes's 16 Elements of Explicit Instruction list. A consistent routine reinforces the goal of automaticity with word recognition and being able to recognize words by sight, thus strengthening the brain process of orthographic mapping, as was previously discussed. Remember, some students will need more practice opportunities than other students. Provide students with many opportunities to spell and read high-frequency words. Repeat the routine for teaching high-frequency words, both regular and irregular, in your small group instruction as necessary. How to use the high-frequency word routines. Videos and cues are included in the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document. This portion of the series will showcase an example of how to use this skill. Feel free to pause this video and practice at any time. Keywords are bolded in the step-by-step explicit high-frequency word routine by Lindsay Kemeny, author of 7 Mighty Moves, to point out the active nature of explicit instruction. Remember, some students will need more practice opportunities than other students. After explicitly teaching the words, review them using word cards and encourage students to analyze the internal structure of each word to decode it. The steps on this slide will be broken down on the following slides. Note, on the next series of slides, the teacher's words are in orange. Step 1. Say the word and use it in a sentence to give it meaning and context. Do this verbally before writing the word or showing a spelled-out form of the word. The word we will learn today is said. What word? Students respond, said. Her mom said it was time to clean her room. Step 2. Do this verbally before writing it or showing a spelled-out form of the word. Tell me the sounds you hear in the word said. S-e-d. How many sounds? Students respond, 3. That's right. Next, have students orally segment the word again, but this time have them push chips up in the cells of an Elkonin box or create lines on their whiteboard for each sound. Step 3. Show students the word and help them connect each spelling within it to the sound it represents. You may write the word on the board or show a word card. What's the first sound? Students say s. Yes, say s as you write S in the first box. Teacher will model writing an S in the first box or on the first line if you are using individual dry erase boards, and the students will follow. Then ask, what's the next sound? Students respond, eh. What letter usually spells the eh sound? Students respond, E. But in this word, eh is spelled with the letters AI. Teacher will write AI, then have students follow. Encourage them to say the eh sound while they write the unusual spelling. Finally ask, what's the last sound? Students say D. Say D as you write the D. Step 4, point out any irregular parts. Next, help the tricky to become sticky. Teacher will draw students' attention to the irregular or tricky part of the word. Have students draw a heart either above or around it, or have them highlight it or circle it, as sometimes drawing a heart shape can be difficult for young students. Both ways are shown here. Ask students how many letters spell the eh sound, and then have them draw that number of lines under that part. Teacher might say, 2 letters spell the eh sound, so let's put 2 lines under the AI spelling. Essentially, this is providing a scaffold to help students remember the tricky part as we ask them to spell the word from memory in the next step. Step 5. Cover the word, then have students erase it and rewrite it from memory. You may want to have students erase the letters, but leave the lines and circles as a reminder or scaffold of where the tricky part goes. Ask students to fill in the words from memory, using the lines and circles to help them remember the spellings. Step 6. Uncover the word and check students' spelling. Show students the word and have them check and, if necessary, correct their spellings. Last, have students erase everything and rewrite the word without lines or circles. Step 7. Have students generate sentences that contain the word. To aid in orthographically mapping a word into long-term memory, it is important to have students use the word in correct context by generating a sentence with the word. Depending on the grade level of students, having them write their sentences on a dry erase board or paper and then read them to one another is another opportunity to practice and solidify the word in long-term memory. As a reminder, there is another video that is accessed through the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document that includes another demonstration of a high-frequency word instruction routine. The routine showcased in this video clip is the Say It, Spell It, Say It research-based routine. One key component of ensuring effective foundational literacy instruction for each student is fidelity of implementation. Your team will be provided with some guiding questions in order for you to consider an implementation plan for your district. This is a place that your team may wish to pause the video and discuss these questions. In conclusion, this chapter of the webinar covered the following: developed an understanding of why high-frequency word instruction, including spiral review, strengthens foundational reading skills, identified instructional implications, explored how to teach high-frequency words using instructional routines, and discussed and applied implementation considerations. For more information on any of the other instructional routines, please click on the respective chapter tab below.
The next chapter is dictation. This chapter will cover the following objectives: understand why dictation is an important foundational reading skill, identify the instructional implications, explore how to teach dictation with an instructional routine, discuss and apply implementation considerations. Why is it important to use a dictation routine? The evidence-based instructional routine for dictation strengthens word recognition and decoding skills, as seen here in the Simple View of Reading model by Goff and Tunmer. The routine also strengthens the language comprehension component as students begin to write sentences in dictation practice. As a reminder, weakness in the area of word recognition, decoding, or language comprehension will result in difficulty with the desired outcome of reading comprehension. As we develop the ability to segment and spell words through dictation, we are strengthening the word recognition strands of Scarborough's reading rope to become increasingly automatic and freeing the cognitive load to focus on the upper strands of the rope. The dictation routine also works on language structures as students begin to write sentences in dictation practice. Explicit routines that emphasize dictation strengthen the neural pathways responsible for all critical components of reading. All of the neural networks above play a vital role in decoding and encoding words and comprehending written language. The four-part processing model for word recognition, developed by Seidenberg and McClelland, illustrates how different brain processors, phonological, orthographic, meaning, and context, work together for skilled reading. Though simplified, it helps educators understand reading development and target specific skills in instruction. Routines for dictation are developing all of the parts included on the four-part processing model for word recognition. Dictation is an essential instructional routine to provide students with opportunities to encode or spell words. Dictation practice provides students with opportunities to apply the sound spelling patterns and irregularly spelled words that have been explicitly taught in both the day's lesson and previous lessons. Now let's discuss instructional implications. Dictation provides reinforcement of phonics and spelling skills by requiring students to apply their knowledge of sound spelling correspondences in both regularly and irregularly spelled words. This routine also promotes the transfer of phonics skills from reading to writing. Dictation provides opportunities for handwriting practice, which strengthens pathways in the brain. Teachers can use dictation as a formative assessment to monitor student progress in the sound spelling and high-frequency words that have been taught. A dictation exercise includes sounds and words that are a mix of new skills and spiral review of previously taught skills. This exercise allows students to practice both phonics skills and high-frequency words that have been explicitly taught. Dictation routines can be used as part of whole group instruction in order to see what skills each student has mastered. It can also be implemented with small groups and in one-to-one instruction to provide additional repetition with encoding. Some students may master new skills with just a few repetitions, while other students need many repetitions to achieve mastery. Utilizing this routine in small group and one-on-one instruction allows you to meet the needs of each student. How to use the dictation routine. Videos and cues are included in the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document. This chapter of the series will demonstrate how to use this skill. Feel free to pause this video and practice at any time. A routine for dictation enables students to produce the sounds and words in other parts of the lesson. Writing by hand reinforces learning by eye and by ear. This routine could be used when just reviewing sounds that have been taught. A dictation routine to review sounds may include the following steps. The sound is ah. What sound? Yes, a. One word with the a sound is apple. Now you write the sound a. Students write the sound on their paper or whiteboard. The teacher circulates to give specific feedback while students write. Ensure that each student spells the sound correctly. Have one student write the sound on the board for all students to check their work. This routine from 7 Mighty Moves by Lindsay Kemeny can be used with words to practice phonics skills and with irregularly spelled high-frequency words. A dictation routine to practice words may include these steps. The word is frog. What word? Yes, frog. Tap the sounds in frog. Yes, og. The frog sits near the pond. Now you write the sounds in frog. Students will then spell the word while saying each sound. This can be done on a sheet of paper to collect, in a journal or writing notebook, or on whiteboards. While students are writing, circulate around the room to provide specific feedback. Choose one student who has spelled the word correctly to go write it on the board. Students can then check their work with the spelling on the board. This can be repeated with 3 to 5 words. Remember, the words should include new phonics skills, review phonics skills, and irregularly spelled high-frequency words. This routine can be used as students progress in their foundational reading skills to practice both words and sentences. A dictation routine to practice a sentence may include these steps. The frog is at the pond. Now you repeat the sentence. Now make a line on your whiteboard for each word in the sentence. How many lines did you make? Yes, 6 lines. One more time, our sentence is, the frog is at the pond. Now write each word in the sentence on a line. Remember to use a capital letter and punctuation. When students are writing, circulate around the room to provide specific feedback. Write the sentence correctly on the board and guide students through self-correcting any errors. As students become more familiar with this routine, the guidance and self-correction can be faded. As a reminder, there is another video that is accessed through the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document that includes another demonstration of a dictation routine. One key component of ensuring effective foundational literacy instruction for each student is fidelity of implementation. Your team will be provided with some guiding questions in order for you to consider an implementation plan for your district. This is a place that your team may wish to pause the video and discuss these questions. In conclusion, this chapter of the webinar covered the following. Developed an understanding of why dictation is an important routine to develop foundational reading skills, identified instructional implications, explored how to teach dictation with an instructional routine, discussed and applied implementation considerations. For more information on any of the other instructional routines, please click on the respective chapter tab below. The next chapter is Decodable Text. This chapter will cover the following objectives. Understand why decodable text is an important foundational reading skill, identify instructional implications, explore how to teach decodable text with an instructional routine, discuss and apply implementation considerations. Why is it important to use decodable text? The evidence-based instructional routine for decodable text strengthens word recognition and decoding skills as seen here in the Simple View of Reading model by Goff and Tunmer. As students begin to read decodable text, they also work on developing the language comprehension portion of the Simple View of Reading. As a reminder, a weakness in the area of word recognition, decoding, or language comprehension will result in difficulty with the desired outcome of reading comprehension. As we develop the ability to read decodable text, we are strengthening the word recognition strands of Scarborough's reading rope to become increasingly automatic and freeing the cognitive load to focus on the upper strands of the rope. The decodable text reading routine also works to develop the language comprehension skills of the rope. Explicit routines that emphasize decodable text reading strengthen the neural pathways responsible for the critical components of reading. The neural networks across all areas of the brain play a vital role in decoding words and comprehending written language. The four-part processing model for word recognition, developed by Seidenberg and McClelland, illustrates how different brain processors, phonological, orthographic, meaning, and context, work together for skilled reading. Though simplified, it helps educators understand reading development and target specific skills in instruction. Routines for reading decodable text are developing and engaging all of the parts of the four-part processing model for word recognition. Reading decodable text is essential to develop strong reading skills. Engaging students in reading decodable text boosts automaticity in recognizing and reading words, builds stronger vocabulary, increases student confidence, and allows students to apply sound letter patterns in decoding skills. Now let's discuss instructional implications. By regularly reading connected text, students can develop a strong foundation for reading comprehension, fluency, vocabulary, and critical thinking skills. Decodable texts are designed to help students achieve mastery of the phonics skills they are learning. While learning phonics skills, students are also developing vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension skills. As students master more complex phonics skills, they can move out of decodable text and into authentic texts in order to continue to develop all reading skills. When selecting decodable texts, ensure they include phonics skills and high-frequency words that students have already been taught. Aim for students to read with at least 95% accuracy to balance reinforcement with challenge. Use these texts in whole group, small group, and one-on-one instruction, and allow students multiple opportunities to reread, which helps build fluency and confidence. How to use the routines. Videos and cues are included in the Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines document. This chapter of the series will demonstrate how to use this skill. Feel free to pause this video and practice at any time. Lindsay Kemeny, in the book 7 Mighty Moves, uses this routine for whole group instruction with decodable readers. Before reading, have students spend 1 to 2 minutes highlighting the words that contain the target skill in the text. Then read the highlighted words. This can be done as a whole class, with a partner, or independently. During reading, students will engage in reading the text, either chorally or with partners. After reading, in order to support development of comprehension, students will retell the story and/or answer questions about the text. This too can be done as a whole group or with partners. Here's an example of decodable text from the University of Florida Literacy Institute, where many decodable passages can be accessed. Students are provided with a clean copy of the decodable passage. Give students 1 to 2 minutes to highlight words that contain the target skill in this passage. The target skill for this passage is short vowel review with CVCC and CCVC words. Students will highlight the target skill words. Then the class will read only the highlighted words. For this demonstration, the class will read the highlighted words chorally. Ready? Read. Glen, frog, black, Glen, pond, pond, Glen, jump, flip, flop, pond, Glen, slug, pond, slug, jump, Glen, slug, jump, slug, Glen, slug, Glen, slug, jump. Now the class will read the entire passage chorally. Ready? Read. Glen is a frog with black spots. Glen is in the pond. The pond has pads. Glen can jump from pad to pad. He can flip and flop on the pads in the pond. Glen sees a slug in the pond. The slug is on a pad. Do you have legs to jump? Glen asks the slug. I do not have legs. I cannot jump, said the slug. Glen lets the slug get on his back. Look, Glen and the slug can jump from pad to pad. In order to reinforce comprehension, students can retell the story to a partner, answer specific questions regarding the story, or draw a picture of what happened in the story. The transfer to text process comes from the 95% group. This routine has 3 different passages during the week that focus on the same skills. On Monday, students are given a clean copy of the first passage and are asked to highlight the words containing the target skill. The class then reads through the words highlighted in the text. Finally, the class reads the passage all the way through with the highlighted words. On Tuesday, the students get out the same copy of the passage they highlighted on Monday. The class reads the passage all the way through with the highlighted words. That copy of the passage is put away and a clean copy is given to students. The class then reads the passage all the way through, this time without the highlighted words. On Wednesday, students are given a clean copy of the second passage and are asked to highlight the words containing the target skill. The class then reads the passage all the way through with the highlighted words. On Thursday, a clean copy of the second passage is handed out and the class reads the passage all the way through without the highlighted words. On Friday, students are given the third passage. This time, no highlighting is done beforehand, and the class reads the entire passage. This decodable reader protocol comes from Student Achievement Partners. Before reading, the teacher will clarify vocabulary words and/or consider background knowledge that students may need to access or develop. During the first read, the teacher will lead the class through the text using echo or choral reading and follow up with some basic comprehension questions. This is a great opportunity for students to hear a fluent reader and to reinforce that the purpose of reading is to make meaning. For the second read, students will read independently or with a buddy. This allows for monitoring of individual needs. For the third read, use echo or choral reading. Echo reading is used when more support is needed. Choral reading is used when students do not need as much support. The third read provides another opportunity for students to hear a fluent read and for the teacher to monitor accuracy of decoding. On the fourth read, students will again read independently or with a buddy. Individual and buddy reading place the work back on the students so the teacher can listen for successes and challenges with student reading. Not all high-quality instructional materials come with a sufficient amount of decodable text to get all students to mastery with phonics skills and high-frequency words. These resources offer other options to access decodable text. Remember, just because it is advertised as decodable, it is only decodable if you have taught 95% or more of the skills and high-frequency words in the text. Both of the artificial intelligence tools can be used to create decodable text. The Project Read Decodable Story Generator includes a scope and sequence of 6 instructional materials, and stories can be created from the aligned scope and sequences. ChatGPT can also be used to generate decodable text by using specific prompts about the skills to be included in the text. The ReadWork decodable texts are especially unique because they are all nonfiction and aligned with ReadWork's article-a-day sets. Through reading these decodable texts, students are building background knowledge while applying their alphabetic knowledge and decoding skills in the context of meaningful continuous text. While the threshold of decodability can vary for decodable texts, the majority of ReadWork's decodable texts are at least 90% decodable, meaning that at least 90% of the words can be decoded and adhere to various phonics scope and sequences across curricula. One key component of ensuring effective foundational literacy instruction for each student is fidelity of implementation. Your team will be provided with some guiding questions in order for you to consider an implementation plan for your district. This is a place that your team may wish to pause the video and discuss these questions. In conclusion, this chapter of the webinar covered the following. Developed an understanding of why decodable text reading is an important foundational reading skill, identified instructional implications, explored how to teach decodable text reading with an instructional routine, and discussed and applied implementation considerations. For more information on any of the other instructional routines, please click on the respective chapter tab below. For a list of references used in this webinar, click on the PDF below.